Views and opinions expressed in this special program are not the views or opinions of Tropical Vibes 105.5 FM. Welcome to Leadership Empowerment. I am Dr. Bernard Young, Managing Director and Trainer at Genesis Leadership Institute, a management and leadership transforming entity operating right here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Our sponsored program, Leadership Empowerment, is primarily focused in building leadership capacity and transformation to ultimately help leaders across all levels of engagement to successfully pilot change and navigate the many challenges of leading change, leading competition, and in leading complexity in a risk-oriented and diverse cultural, ethnic, and multilingual operating environment. Each week on Leadership Empowerment, we will be exploring the many dimensions of nation building from the perspectives of the family, the church and community, community development, educational development, political development, entrepreneurship, business and financial empowerment, educational diversification, and the many other regional and global issues, all of which impinge upon and directly affect the mantle of leadership here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. Leadership Empowerment promises each week to deliver credible and cutting-edge educational information in an attempt to responsibly inform and produce a listening audience prepared to take their rightful place in leading the charge of nation building and human development. I invite you, the listening audience, each week to tune in to Leadership Empowerment and be informed by a fresh and vibrant perspective as we seek to light a candle rather than to curse the darkness. Welcome to Leadership Empowerment today. I'm Dr. Bernard Young. I have the privilege today of having a very special guest, former Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, a friend, a colleague, and certainly someone interested and whose love is for these islands. My friend, colleague, Mr. Misick. I have mixed feelings in this program because on the one hand, we have this awesome privilege to inform and educate. And on the other hand, we have a populace and population, people who has so many needs. And normally what happens in life when the master raises up leadership, it's always a conflict. Leadership is a conflicting thing. One could have the notoriety of acclaim of men. One can be a person of great appeal. One can also be selectable and electable or appointable. But to lead is an entirely different matter. So I welcome you today, my friend. I am happy to be able to sit with you and hear what vision is trapped in you that has to be yet expressed in the direction and the birth of this nation, the growth of this nation, known as the Turks and Caicos Islands. Let us open up with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege that we have to educate, elucidate, to acclaim your name, and to broadcast your purposes in the earth. You are a God of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We constantly depend upon your presence with us. So now I ask you to imbue us with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Give us the right forum, the right kind of access to the world of information that is out there that will help us to better understand nation building and leadership. We give you the honor and glory right now. Holy Spirit, you're welcome in this place. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. We have a short text of scripture that I normally would read, and today we're looking at Ecclesiastes, the book of wisdom, chapter 10, reading verses 5 through 7. Book of wisdom, Ecclesiastes, and it's captioned under the heading, The Ironies of Life. There is another evil I have seen under the sun. Kings and rulers make a grave mistake when they give great authority to foolish people and low positions to people of proven worth. I have even seen servants riding horseback like princes, and princes walking like servants. That is quite an irony. It all begins and ends with leadership. We rise based on the level of leadership we have, or we fall based on the absence of that level of leadership. And today, former Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands is with us, the Honorable Misick. He's a native of this country. He's lived here for most of his life. He was bred here. He's a son of the soil, and he knows and understands very intricately and intimately what it means to move a nation forward. And that's why he's on the show today on nation building. I want to just open up, Mr. Misick, with a statement of fact, and then we'll plunge right in, okay? And utilizing some of the writings of the late Lee Kuan Yew, who transformed Singapore into a Mecca. It was a disparate nation that was extremely poor and disenfranchised, and a leader rose with a compelling vision to lift the country to another level, to breakthroughs, to empowerment of the people, to the point where Singapore today has one of the highest gross domestic products in terms of productivity, in terms of the transformation in educational empowerment. It is a mecca of skill sets that can now be deployed and moved into the rest of the world. And some of the things he said, that the underpinning of nation building includes the unswerving conviction of political leadership in the creation of a core national identity, culture, and consciousness. The people must know who they are, develop in that realm of understanding in the midst of an otherwise multicultural, multilingual, and multi-ethnic grouping of individuals who must now all coexist at the same time, in the same place, but moving with a nationalistic identity towards a given end. The focus of leadership is nation building, to build the people, to build human capacity. Mr. Misick, I want you to plunge right in, because I know you're full of things to say.
Well, first I'd like to thank you for inviting me to come on your show, and to congratulate you for the good job that you're doing on the show and in our community to educating the populace of the need, in our case, to build a nation. In our case, the need for empowerment.
Yes.
In our case, the need for ownership, not only ownership in business and ownership in homes, but take ownership of our country.
That responsibility, yes.
And these are essential elements of nation building. Taking responsibility for our own environment, our own actions, and so forth. So, again, thank you for having me.
Yes.
Certainly, the statement you just read from the former founder of Singapore, the independence founder of Singapore, is one that is appropriate to us today as it was to them now. And you're completely right with the transformation of Singapore. If you can recall, in the case of Singapore, I think Malaysia basically threw Singapore away.
Right, threw them under the bus.
There was no swampland, there was no use, there was no... Basically, and today Singapore is a first world country. And in fact, so much more advanced than Malaysia that they were aligned with. And I see the same type of potential in Turks and Caicos. We're a colony, there's no nice way of putting it. And I equate colonialism and slavery and
colonization.
Yes. They are in the same breath as I would, in my view, because colonialization is a form of slavery. It's a form of mental slavery. And unfortunately, too much of us are still in mental slavery, that we believe that white is right, or we believe that if an Englishman says something, it must be true. Gospel. We have no confidence,
Mike,
in ourselves and in our own people.
I like to ask, what do you think has contributed to that lack of affirmation, that lack of surety, that lack of sureness, that lack of, another word is identity?
Well, as I said, I think, when you look, and you have to look at of the struggle historically, even from slavery time, there were people who fought against being slavery being abolished. They say, what are we going to do when the masters? Why should we leave the master's yard? Right? And then and it transcends into colonialism, where there were people saying, well, what will we do without the United Kingdom? And some of these countries who have gone on to become even greater than the United Kingdom, and so we're a relic of that past. And there were countries that were almost forced into independence, because when a few countries took a stand, and when you had the winds of change, of decolonization that took place, so you had a wave of countries who ride that wave and went into independence. Unfortunately for us, we didn't ride that wave
at the time.
James McCartney died. We should have been independent from 1980. It is my view that we would have been a much better place, a much more developed place. Turks and Caicos Islands would have been a lot more in control of our destiny. The state of our affairs is to me troubling. All of the gains that we've made over the last 15 to 20 years has been lost. All of the empowerment that when I was premier, we tried to do for Turks and Caicos Islands, whether it's in grant of Crown land, whether it's educating our people. We spend tens of millions of dollars on scholarships. Some of these people today have hell home to get a good job, a good paying job. And then you have situations where I heard even today that there are companies who are in the wake of Oregon who are downsizing. Okay, but the first thing you do is downsize Turks and Caicos Islanders and keeping some of their expatriate staff.
You hit something very important a minute ago. You said that there was a great deal of effort put in educational empowerment at the time. And some of the benefactors of that educational empowerment today have better jobs and have better homes, and perhaps the standard of living has improved. But was education really only intended to create an environment for you to just be concerned with your own personal development and betterment, or was there a more impactful demand and requirement to help build your nation?
Well, it's twofold.
Yes.
Because you would conclude that a person an educated person, would be more analytical, who would be more willing to take risk.
Yes.
Sometimes that is not the case, right? But that would be a natural conclusion, and we were on the road, as you say, of nation building. We were building institutions. Key to that is education. Key to that is infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Key to that is healthcare.
Right.
Key to that is financial empowerment and stability.
Right.
For not only for our country, for our people.
Right.
And as I said, unfortunately, a lot of those gains have been lost by the bottom line is that the relationship that we have with this colonial master is an unnatural relationship. It's not a relationship of equals. It's a relationship of boy and man. Mm-hmm. This is our country. All of the finances that goes to pay for all of the pay for schools, pay for civil servants, comes from us, from our taxpayers. And even when it's all said and done, when we take this natural disaster that just happened into perspective.
Right.
The British came late, and they came in almost like it was a reality show, flying helicopters up and down, pretending as if they're really helping. And at the end of the day, I can assure you that we, Turks and Caicos Islands, will get a bill. Because I don't know if you've seen in the British paper, they were complaining that the whole exercise in the Caribbean has cost like £50 million. And who's going to pay for it? Right?
The Caribbean
and so
people.
The bottom line is that when you look, there's no advantage for being a colony. Because, number one, this hurricane has showed us that countries and countries that were not colonies get even more aid and support from the British than we would and we have. Clearly, they say that our countries are too rich for their traditional aid.
Right, right. I read that.
Now, the present constitutional situation is that we are a colony. We are a part of the United Kingdom. This is considered crown land.
Right.
So the Dutch and the French, for example, they spend tens of billions of dollars in infrastructure in their territories. The British don't.
So
the day after the hurricane hit, or 2 days, the French Prime Minister, or President, was in St. Martin himself.
Right.
And so was the Dutch King, because they wanted to see firsthand what the damage was, and they will invest hundreds of millions of dollars rebuilding those countries. That will cost those people nothing.
So in other jurisdictions that have similar colonial arrangements, the head and lead countries were more empathetic.
Well, and the benefit is more.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Why be in a relationship? Right?
That's not benefiting.
That doesn't benefit you. Right? What a girl would tell you, I can do bad by myself.
Yes, indeed.
So,
what was interesting to me was I saw a report, and we're talking about nation building today. Those of you that want to just chime in with a call, the number is 244-1789. If you have something to say that you can contribute to the process of nation building. But before we really dig in, we have to turn the soil on some of the fundamental basic things that are misaligned, that create an environment that makes it more difficult to even enter a discussion about serious nation building. I noticed that there was a report that said TCI is accounted as a wealthy jurisdiction that is disqualified from aid from international organizations based on our GDP per capita. In other words, I think our GDP per capita is pegged around 29,000 per person. That's all the income and goods and services produced by a country divided by the population total to come up with a number per person. But the per capita income as a measurement of the wealth of a country is skewed when, in truth, 90% of the wealth is owned by a small percentage of people.
Of course.
And we know there's a lot of poverty here, abject poverty. We don't want to sometimes admit it. We don't want to see it as it really is. But there's great poverty, not only in terms of material poverty, but there's the poverty here. There's a diminished poverty where we're not really where we ought to be in properly understanding the true impact of things and facts and figures and how decisions are impacting the country. And that's a consciousness that has to be enlivened and woken up. But that's in the hand of leadership.
Well, absolutely. I mean, leadership is crucial. I mean, and touching on the issue of poverty, there's people here that go sleep hungry. There are families here who, when they open their refrigerator, if they have one, there's nothing in it.
There's nothing in it.
Right? Fortunately, we live in a society where sometimes family help family, neighbors help neighbors. And I'm sure, having it been for the kind-hearted and goodwill of some of those people, it would have been a lot worse. So that's one part. Then the mental poverty that you talk about. I mean, unfortunately, we are a country that is docile.
Explain that.
It seems to me.
Explain that.
It seems to me that nothing affects our people, right? Nothing in the sense
Nothing
that
riles them up.
I mean, hey, maybe sometimes people have barroom talk, talking about change.
Right.
But when it comes down to can I count on your support?
Yes.
Can I count on you to lead lead
the
a
charge.
demonstration for peaceful resistance, for change?
Right.
Very few people
willing to risk.
Willing to risk their perception of little comfort. Sometimes you have to have the courage to step out of the box, step out of your comfort zone, right? Step out of the little comfort that you think you have, to be able to achieve greater comfort for you and especially for your children.
Yes, generations.
And so we see it day in, day out in every situation where we're being marginalized, we're picked apart one by one, and people say, well, that's.
Is it a situation where people don't focus on it unless it comes close to home?
Well, yeah, and then.
So you're not concerned about what happens to someone else.
You're not concerned about what happens to your neighbor. I mean, there was a saying that he came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew, right?
Right.
And they came for this group, but I wasn't with that group.
Right.
And they came for this one, but I wasn't with that group. But then they came for me, when everybody else was gone.
Yes.
So that is the problem that we have here, and as part of what we have here in our country.
Why do we have this disconnect from having a galvanizing, cementing glue between us that nothing can shake, that nothing can break? What is it about Turks and Caicos Islanders that has caused us to be so fragmented when it comes to bonding and knowing and like I see other ethnicities that move here have more glue in their midst than the indigenous people. They can come together and support a business. They can come together and advance an initiative. They can come together for a common cause or common good. But when it comes to advancing the best interest of the Turks and Caicos Islands long term, the indigenous individuals from the country seem disparate, disconnected, disenfranchised from each other. What is it that has caused us not to stick the way we should?
A lot of it has to do with the whole concept of divide and rule. A lot of it has to do with jealousy. A lot of it has to do with party politics. PDM and the PNP don't want to seem to be working together. A lot of it has to do also with our different geographic locations. Some people say, well, you're from Grand Turk and I'm from the Caicos Islands.
Yeah.
But the time has come for us to put all of that aside to work together in the interest of nation building. Because if a country like South Africa, who's had a deep history of apartheid, and they can put that behind them and come together as a rainbow nation.
Right.
I mean, you have the Bahamas with 700 islands. Right. They can come together. You're Bahamian.
Right.
Whether you're from Andros or Inagua or Nassau.
So identified as Bahamian.
And so it has always been my goal, and even when I was premier, my agenda to seek political independence, and all of the stones that we were laying was nation building.
Right.
But haven't had that experience, and then some of us, part of the problem, the other problem among us is that we always find an excuse. People say, yes, I'm pro-independence, but we have to have this first. We have to feed ourselves first. We have to. We don't want to lose the U.S. dollar. We need this. We need that. The Bible itself when you talk about kingdom,
right?
It says, "Seek ye first the kingdom,
right,
and everything else will be added." So I'm saying that we have to take the bold step and be courageous to say that we don't want to be a colony anymore. We want to control our own destiny. So just like how the British vote in 2 years they will exit Europe, and then everything will fall into place.
Right.
Sometimes you have to you have to step out on faith. You can't. Everything is not gonna be there.
So to achieve greatness, to achieve nation building, to achieve the level of achievement that's possible, it takes risk.
It takes risk, and it takes faith, and it takes courage, and it takes the other thing that I can't say on the radio.
Yeah, I know. Go now and say.
But it takes that because we allow these people to brainwash us to think, and I hear a lot of people so many times saying, Turks and Caicos Islands are better off than some of the independent countries.
What do we measure that by?
Well, that I don't know, but we measure that by the fact that
a few dollars.
Because when you look closely at that, a lot of these countries are bigger. So of course you have immigration. You have immigration everywhere. We have hundreds of our people left to go to the Bahamas, to go to the States.
Now repatriating to England.
People are going to England.
Right.
And so you can't measure it by the fact that people are coming here to seek a better life. Some of us leave here to elsewhere to seek a better life. Right. You have to measure it by by how they treat their people, education, health care, infrastructure, inward investment.
How important is, I'm not talking about just sending people off to school and say they're educated. What kind of education empowerment you're now advancing in this whole nation building? Because we know for many years people have gone off to school to be accountants, doctors, lawyers, teachers. They're in law enforcement, they're in architecture, building, they're in many of the other professions. But this whole concept of an education to put the foundation down to build a future, what is this talking to?
I think that we have to start from the primary school. When you look at countries that are strong, even in the United States, China, Cuba, Russia, they teach about nation building even
from the school.
From the schools.
Wow.
Because people are proud. When an American says, I'm an American,
there's an identity.
To you, if you're not an American, you don't understand what that means. But to them, or a Haitian, as much as we like to talk to a Haitian, no matter how successful they are outside of their country, they will never deny
their origin, their identity.
I'm a Haitian.
Yes.
Or I'm a Dominican. I'm a Jamaican.
Yes.
I'm a Jamaican.
Yes.
Right? And so it's that identity that we're lacking, because in our schools, we brush on civics, right? when you look at how we treat our leaders, former leaders, former not only leaders but other people who have made contribution, right?
We have scant regard for them.
Exactly, right?
Right.
And so, but you have to instill in and the young people, and because we're a multicultural society, you may have a child born here of, say, Haitian parentage or other parentage, but as far as I'm concerned, if you're born there, you're born there.
Right.
Now, if you're in school, it is up to the school, up to us, to ingrain
still
that loyalty in them there.
To the country.
So if you don't do it there,
yes,
then when they go home or wherever else, then and that is part of the problem you have, because you have a generation of people who perhaps some were born here, but because of sometimes how the way we treat them, their loyalty is to the country of their parents, because they don't feel like they're part of us.
Embraced.
Yes.
So in the educational process, what you're advancing is that we start even in the primary schools and even younger than that to instill an identity that's Turks and Caicos Islands, nothing else, nowhere else. You live here, you benefit here. This is where you contribute and build a community, build a country, build a society as part of the Turks and Caicos. So in the absence of that sort of national identity, for lack of a better word, in the absence of that, people are gyrating. There is no foundation. There is no rudder. There is no anchor.
And in nation building, the other thing, in nation building, you need all hands on deck. Right? My hand is not more important than Sean Oswald's hand.
We all have
to nation building.
Yes.
We need all hands on deck.
Right.
And again, in the 21st century, we should be ashamed of ourselves.
You're right.
That we cannot come together as politicians, as leaders, as citizens, to agree on one accord the things that we're going to do that is in the best interest of Turks and Caicos Islanders.
Wow.
Nation building is in our interest. Yes, we can fight politics on different levels.
Right.
But we have to fight the common enemy. Right? And the common enemy is colonialization that is day in, day out. For me, as a black man, as a black educated man,
right,
it sickens me to my stomach.
Right.
That a white man from England,
right,
with no connection to the Turks and Caicos, comes here for 3 years. The day he stepped foot on Turks and Caicos Islands,
he's in charge.
He has more rights, more privilege than I do as a Turks and Caicos Islander.
Wow.
That is unacceptable.
Is that really so?
That is unnatural.
Yeah, but is that really so?
It is so. When the governor steps foot here, he is the governor. He is immune from persecution. And everything else that flows from that.
Wow.
What happened? And after 3 years, or whatever how long they stay, they're gone. And the damage that they leave behind, we have to. It's a vicious cycle. So when are we going to wake up and know that the success of our country is in our hands? What we're doing now is puppy show. Charlene Cartwright has absolutely no power at all.
You mean as premier, she has
absolutely no power, none.
No power to build a nation.
No power. Well, you have power you have power collectively, of course, and you have power to affect the change that this she's going to do. But under this system, the same system, under this colonial system, under the present constitutional arrangement, right, where you have the CFO controlling the finances. In fact, basically the governor is in charge. I mean, and we see from the hurricane, what Hurricane Irma has done was expose
the system.
Right. Expose. How can you have a system when there's a
national
emergency? The first thing you do with a state of emergency is that you set aside the leadership. The local leadership is no longer in charge. Your leadership is based Anyone can lead in good times.
Right.
The leadership is based on
In
what can
critical
you do
times.
in critical time when people need you.
Right.
Even today, there are people suffering, old people suffering. Right? Where's the hurricane relief?
Wow.
Where's we don't need the duty concession. Only people that's benefiting from the duty concession is the white people who are buying up and stocking up and to build stuff. Right? The person in Blue Hills who need it can't afford to import nothing to Venezuela. What the government should have done with the $14 million, over $70 million that Rufus Ewing left in the bank, is to buy material. Buy the material that is essential. Buy plywood. Buy seal and peel. Yeah. Buy the stuff that people need, and go house to house and give people hurricane relief. We don't need no duty concessions. We need hurricane relief. In fact, all they're doing is giving away the revenue.
Wow.
Well, give the people who need hurricane relief, and collect the revenue from people that
are capable of paying it.
Continuing to leech our country.
Wow.
You know, and it upsets me.
Yeah, I see.
Because you have leadership that is not in control, that is pandering to certain segment. That at the end of the day, these people they live in a they're here, but not part of us. They're here to take.
That's interesting. The late Lee Kuan Yew said something very interesting, and it's one of the divides in this country that you said creates an environment that causes us not to come together because we're either yellow or we're blue or we're green or whatever we choose to be. He said, never focus on the party's future. Focus on the country's future. What do you have to say about that?
And I subscribe to that. The country is bigger than any person.
There you go.
Okay? The country is bigger than the party.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
And while you may have a party in power,
yes,
but the party is not necessarily the government.
Right.
Because the party may represent its membership. The government is supposed to represent all of the people.
Wow.
And that is the distinction. Right? I may be a card carrying PNP.
Right.
Right? And the party have its place. But when you become the government, you become the government
of
all of the people. And
yes,
and when I was in government, I governed with that in mind every day. As I said, we gave out hundreds of scholarships, hundreds of thousands of acres of crown land, without any without it being ensuring that they were PDM or PNP. You're Turks Caicos Islands, you're entitled to it, then you should have it.
Right. Something else and we're all talking about nation building. For those of you that are tuning in today, either streaming on the internet or listening on the radio or whatever other social media, my host today, my guest today is the Honorable Michael Eugene Misick, former Premier of the Turks and Caicos, who is now with us to just discuss very openly and honestly. It's not a political program. It's a program that's aimed at hearing what's in his mind, what's in his spirit on this whole theme of nation building. And this show, Leadership Empowerment, has been launched, and our primary objective and our primary reason for being is really to talk, to educate, to empower, to get people better prepared to be more evaluative and more analytical in the various areas of life that affect the Turks and Caicos. And you want to call in on 244-1789. I invite you to call in, ask a question, or give a contribution to the process of nation building. It's not all exclusive to some people. It's inclusive of everybody, and everybody has a part to play. As Mr. Misick just said, all hands have to be on deck in nation building. Now, the late Lee Kuan Yew, and I'm using some of his writings and some of his thoughts, because he did it, and we don't have to redo what has already been proven. You just take the model, tweak it, and run with it.
Yes, it's a perfect model.
He said, when he was asked what it takes to be a politician, he said, you have to have convictions. Not in it for any other reason. You got to be guided by convictions. If you don't have convictions, you're going in for personal glory or reasons or publicity. He said, forget it. He said, leadership is that success component that would win the day. What is your thoughts, Mr. Misick, on this whole concept in a 21st century world in the Turks and Caicos of leadership? What is leadership to you?
Leadership, I mean, your quote is, hits the nail on the head, as we would say. But, leadership is about, first you have to care. Because you can't lead a people that you don't care about.
So you have to care about people.
You have to care about people. You have to have the touch, the common touch. Right? It's about wanting to empower and lift the unfortunate up.
Right.
It's about making selfless sacrifice.
Right.
It's about thinking about others
first,
not yourself. Think about others. First. It's about being brave to stand up in the face of adversity and make the right decision. It is about being able to to look a person in the eyes and say no or yes.
Yes.
It's about being able to gain that trust and confidence from the people that you're leading.
What about that the criteria of vision? Now, I want to speak to vision from this perspective. Vision sees the sublime thing done in the future. Visits the future, captures accurately the environment of what has to be done, comes back into the present, and now sets about to create what is not yet.
Well, vision, I mean, the Bible talks about those who have no vision will perish. Right?
Perish, yes.
But the other thing is this. Vision is important, but vision alone can't get the job done.
Yes.
Because again, work, a faith without work is dead. Vision without sacrifice, right?
Without provision.
So many people say, like, I want a big house on the hill, or I want to be a lawyer, or I want to, whatever their dreams and goals are. But are you prepared to make the sacrifice? Right? Are you prepared to save for it? Are you prepared not to go out every night? Are you prepared to burn the midnight oil? Okay? So while vision is important, having the person in the leadership role who's prepared to work.
So you can't be lazy.
You can't be a lazy leader.
You can't be a slacker.
You
can't get the job and don't function.
That's what sometimes happens because people get caught up in the trappings of power without doing the work.
Oh my goodness! So it can entrap you if you're not.
And this is what I believe is happening to our country today, right? A person who has never worked. you cannot send a person who has never worked to work.
Wow.
And so that person gets caught up in the hoopla. I'm a leader.
Yes.
But what about the work?
Yes.
Who's going to do the work? There's work to be done. Yeah. Who is going to do the work?
And who benchmarks that work?
And in our small country, in nation building,
yes,
unlike big countries,
right,
where you have tons of advisors,
right,
and tons of technical people,
right.
In our small country, you have to roll up your
and you have to jump in.
Get the work done yourself.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Right? It's like operating a small business. If your employee calls in sick, you can't close your business.
Right.
The business has to go on. So
That's interesting. That's very interesting because also what is advanced by the late Lee Kuan Yew is this. He said a nation has to be built on a system of what he called meritocracy. In other words, it ain't about bloodline, it ain't about family connection, it ain't about popularity. It's about the fact that merit, the individual must be able to bring something to the table. It's not driven by friendship, family name, or relationship, place of birth, or even sense of entitlement. In a meritocracy system based in any environment, personal talent, abilities, and competencies are harnessed in the resolution of the country's challenges and problems. How do you see the value of bringing persons to the table who has something to give, something to offer?
And Singapore is a good example of that. Is a good example of a country that very disciplined. You know, the rules are the rules. Right? People work hard, and they work hard.
They work hard.
The Asians, as you know, they
very
work hard.
Disciplined.
Very disciplined, right? And so I agree. You cannot build a country by favoritism. You have to build a country where the rule of law applies evenly.
Yes, to all.
Where opportunities, you have equal opportunity.
Yes.
No matter you know whether you're poor, as I was. My father was a fisherman. My mom was a farmer.
Wow.
Okay. We never. They had 14 children. We came from very humble beginnings. All of us grew up in a place not so much bigger than this, in Bottle Creek.
Wow.
Okay. And so from having that background, I get my gratification from seeing someone from humble background given the opportunity. And that is why given scholarships and education is so important. Because if you send one child from a household to university, and that child is the first from their generation to go to the university, that child have an opportunity to change
that generation.
Not only does he break the chain,
yes,
but when he comes back, and that is why coming back is important. And when coming back, that is why it's important for us to ensure that our people, when coming back, have an opportunity for good paying jobs and business opportunities. Because if I go to college, and unfortunately what is happening now, people go to college for 4 or 5 years, they come back, and then the hotels or whatever offer them a job that they could have done before they go into college.
Wow.
And keep the good paying, high paying jobs exclusively for their white foreigners that they bring in. Right. This must stop. Right. And it's an opportunity for us to stop it. We must stop it, because otherwise what is happening is that there's a brain drain. Mm-hmm. All of these people that's going off now to school in England,
they're staying.
Unfortunately, they're not coming back.
Right.
Because they have a better opportunity to progress there. Mm-hmm. And not only are they staying, some of them are selling for their families.
Wow.
Right? And so you cannot, again, talking about nation building, you cannot build a nation by through the process of brain draining. In fact, building a nation means that you want
talent.
A talent.
Right. Because the late Lee Kuan Yew said it this way: nation building is achieved by attracting and retaining talent. Now, we know from information in the Bahamas that there's more than 45,000 people of Turks and Caicos Islands descendancy who are in the judiciary, chefs, lawyers, doctors, artisans, architects, hotel managers. They're in every facet of the Bahamian society. There's a pool of resources in the Bahamas that has Turks and Caicos origin. Mm-hmm. And the disparity we now see here in terms of local talent commanding, jobs in insurance and in the banking system, in the bank. Bahamas is a banking infrastructure. There is a need for some novel way or some creative way. Something has to be done to get some of our talent back.
Well, it's called opportunities. I mean, when I was premier, I don't know when you and your family moved
We
back.
came in 2012.
Okay, you came after the good times.
I heard so.
But there was a massive uh, migration or movement of Turks and Caicos Islanders, TI Bahamians, or Turks and Caicos Islanders coming back home.
Wow.
And in many cases, even of their parents who were settled income, and a lot of the kids who also have TI heritage who came back home. And today we have a lot of that. And that is something that, in fact, I encourage.
Right.
I went to the Bahamas many times on official visit and encourage people to come back home and take their rightful place. So that is one element. But the other element is retaining the people that is here. The homegrown people that is here, that we're educating. We have to make it attractive
enough for
them to stay.
Come back.
So it's not only about saying, okay, attracting people to come, but what about me who are here? So you're making it attractive for people to come, but you're not making it attractive for me to stay.
Right.
And so as part of that nation building, it has to be twofold. You have to make it attractive for people to stay by ensuring that opportunities are there, fair and equal opportunities, ensuring that there are opportunities for business. Certain businesses have to be reserved for Turks and Caicos Islanders, and Turks and Caicos Islanders only. Certain positions.
Right.
Certain management positions has to be for Turks and Caicos Islanders, and Turks and Caicos Islanders only.
Right.
And you can't be apologetic about it, because you cannot build a nation based on only on foreign labor and management and expertise.
Right.
And when you look even in government now, when I was in government, I think the only expatriate who was there was the governor probably.
Right.
Today, in every segment of government, you have a foreign element. How can you build a nation? Take the judiciary, for example. We don't even have a Turks Island as a magistrate. Not one.
Not one?
Not one. How are you going to build a country, right? When our people are not given the opportunities, and I say that unfortunately under this British system, the British system is designed to keep us out of management position, right? The only way, or one of the ways, the best way, is when we take full ownership. Take full ownership of our country. But when we take full ownership of our country, when you have a governor general that is Turks Island, when you have a prime minister that's Turks Island, you're going to have the chief justice that is Turks Island, you're going to have
commissioner of police,
the commissioner of police, and so on and so forth. We again talk about nation building.
Yes.
How are you going to build a nation without protecting your borders?
Right.
Again, people say, oh, well, the British is in charge of defense. The British was here during the hurricane with a frigate. Haitian boats still coming. Did they try to do anything about that? No, because they're not interested in that. We need our own National Guard, and a National Guard. Not only does it help us to protect our borders, but in time of emergency, you deploy them.
Right.
And so we have to get away from this dependency syndrome where we think, oh, well, somebody else is going to come in here and save us. So we have to collectively be our brother's keeper and save ourselves one at a time. So we have to stop the petty jealousy. When we see one person is advancing,
we kill them.
That we kill them, and we talk lies about them. We snitch and untruth about them to try to bring them down. We glorify in the downfall of our brother man.
They call it.
We could never build a nation like that.
They call it the black crab syndrome.
Because today is for me, tomorrow is for you. They take you down one by one. The enemy is not concerned that the enemy befriend you to get what they want.
Right.
When I was premier, one time we had a captain meeting that lasted like 2-3 hours, however long. I was saying as a joke, but it's not really a joke. When I came out, I had 150 missed calls. After I left office, I had to call my own phone to make sure it was working. Because people, I thought I lost my phone. Because these people, they use us to achieve their ends. And then when they finish with you, then they use the other person who makes himself available to be used. So we have to draw the line in the sand and say we're not going to be used anymore. If we're going to be used, we're going to be used for the benefit of our people. We're going to be used for the benefit of our nation building.
What can help wake us up to not being used? What is the answer? We need to get holy water and sprinkle the nation. What do we need to do?
Holy water is a good start. Holy water is definitely a good start. You know, and I think part of it has to do with
trust, mistrust.
Trust, mistrust, credit. People want to take credit for things. You know, I can tell you, I served as premier for 6, 7, 8 years, 7 years. I've been in politics for 25 years. All right. None of the former or present premier has ever picked up the phone once to call me to say, you know, former premier,
right.
Have you ever had a situation like this?
Right.
Never.
Wow.
Right. So that goes to show you that because they're afraid that they may ask me a question and I may help them, and that they may feel like I may take credit.
You might get the benefit of the credit.
Right?
But the country benefits.
As you say, country.
Yes.
Right?
Country.
Country.
First. Country.
Right? And building a nation, you have to put country first. You have to put country above self. You have to put your people, right, while we welcome others.
Right.
And I'm not anti-foreign.
Yes. But Turks Islands first.
But Turks Islands first.
I understand.
Right? If you can't take care of your own people.
So it is in every country.
If you can't take care of your own people, how you want to take care
of somebody
others?
else? Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you can't be ashamed.
Yes.
Of saying, I mean, this whole colonial thing is a man coming to your house. Your house is
sacred.
Is your palace. It's
yes.
sacred.
Right.
He comes into your house.
Takes over.
Right? And the moment he comes into your house, he's telling you what to do in your house.
Wow.
That can't be right.
Yes. Yes.
It can't be right at all. And not only is colonialism, it's ungodly.
It's ungodly. Our guest today on Leadership Empowerment is Sir Michael Misick, former Premier of the Turks and Caicos, and he's sharing his thoughts with us today, breaking his heart on nation building, what it really would take to help turn some things around and get us more on track with being our brother's keeper and building each other and building the capacity of trust, national identity, and understanding we have to pull ourselves up from the spirit of dependency upon somebody else to now start to lead our own destiny and lead our own future. Anyone want to call in right now? 244-1789. We're in the closing minutes of the program. I have a few more questions for him, then we'll be signing off. If you want to call in to make a contribution, to ask Mr. Misick a question, or just to be heard, I invite you to, please. I have noticed something very, very, very abysmal, and it's deafening in what it does to leaders. The book, the Word of God, shows us where a great leader, Moses, who stood between God and the people and placated him many times, and he wanted to wipe the people out, asked him to stay his hand and all of that to save ultimately his heritage. Yet at the end of the day, the very same people caused him not to see the place of promise because he grew angry with them. And Lee Kuan Yew made a very interesting observation in turning Singapore around, and he wrote that leadership's constant challenge is this: when the object of the sacrifice, the people, fail to recognize the sacrifice made for their future safety, their future security, and their future prosperity. He said it's a mortal blow to the heart of a leader. How do you respond to that?
I agree with him wholeheartedly, because it's not easy fighting for a cause. It's not easy when you have leadership fighting for a cause and then especially when you have some of your own people, seem the very people, the very object, the very people that you're fighting for, right? Then turn around and
you say charge, you are there by yourself.
Right.
Sure, you're
So
under the bus.
it is not easy, but I'm sure he would also say that in spite of that,
yes,
as a leader, you still stand against
stay the course
above the fray. You stay the course.
Yes,
because if you know your course is just,
yes, a righteous,
right, and righteous,
yes,
you would stand.
Stay the course.
Nothing good comes easy. Freedom is priceless.
Yes,
and in every society, in every country that has fought for freedom,
yes,
there are, as the Americans would say, collateral damage.
Collateral damage.
Sometimes
yes.
there are people who die.
Yes.
Who pay the
ultimate
price by dying.
Right.
There's people who pay who go to prison and pay reputational damage.
Right.
Right. And so our fight for leadership.
Right.
Our journey towards nation building would be no different from those who have gone and fight before. Because fighting for independence and nationhood, I mean, the British is expert at this.
Right.
They didn't conquer the world and lose all of it.
In fact, the song says, "Rule Britannia. Britannia rules the waves. Britons shall never ever be slaves."
Exactly. But they enslave others.
But you know the spin there is, they understand the demise of being a slave.
Yes.
That's very critical to understand.
So I know that in closing, what I would like to say is that I would like to appeal to the present government and the present legislature. All of the things that you're trying to do will not be accomplished and could be undermined by a stroke of a pen. We should be seeking nationhood. We should be building a nation.
Right.
We should be seeking self-governance.
Yes.
And through self-governance, prosperity would come. And that prosperity, is sustainable. And that prosperity is not left to the whims and fancy of external factors.
Right.
And so, we all take credit for this investment, this development, the other development. Or we all take credit for tourism arrivals being high or low or whatever the situation is. But the truth is that does not belong to us.
If
it Grace Bay Club belongs to the developers. They're the ones who are making the money and benefiting from that.
Right.
Right. And the same thing with Seven Stars or the others. And you have to.
We have to have our own institutions.
We got hell to get our people to get a sensible paying job in these places.
Right.
But yet still we want to take credit for them.
Right.
So let's build our nation. Let us work together. Let us begin the process of educating our people to know that, and let us not be, nothing takes away a person's dreams and aspiration like fear. Let us fear not. Let us be fearless in our drive for equality, injustice, and progress.
Right. We have to kill fear.
You have to.
The word says fear has torment.
Yes. Sometimes people, they frighten themselves to death.
But also, it tells us that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but rather power, love, and a sound understanding, a sound mind. So if fear did not come from the Almighty, and we know here, most people, call on God and say they're part of the kingdom of God, but we're filled and riddled down with abject fear. So fear is from the other fellow.
Fear is from the other fellow. And I thank God for allowing me to be able to
Conquer your fear.
my fear. And the 11 months I spent in prison helped me. Because one of the things most people fear, two things you fear more than anything else, is prison and death, right?
Yes.
And I was able to conquer my fear.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so if you can conquer your fear, and you can govern, you don't have to go through the experience I've gone through to conquer it.
Yes.
But pray to because leaders need to be fearless.
Fearless.
They need to take chances.
Yes, indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
And then you'll have people following you. Nobody wants to follow a coward.
Yes.
You want to follow a general, a brave man or brave woman,
a leader
who has the confidence to say, yes, we can.
Yes, indeed.
And we do it.
Our guest today has been Michael Eugene Misick, former premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, and he's been on Leadership Empowerment, sharing his thoughts on nation building. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking. Time for thinking ahead. Wake up, political leaders. Wake up, church leaders. Wake up, family leaders, business leaders, community leaders, leaders across the wide spectrum of the Turks and Caicos. It is time to wake up. God bless you today. God bless Turks and Caicos. And may He help us to build this nation.
Amen.
The views and opinions expressed in the preceding program are the show host, their guests, and callers, and not the views or opinions of Tropical Vibes 105.5 FM.
Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Empowerment this week. We trust that we have challenged you today to be an instrument of progressive change as we collectively enhance and improve the people of our nation to take their rightful place as the possessors and inheritors of this great land. We look forward to seeing you next week.